same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, just the 7 C's.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Sherri Hill, and welcome to the Mental Pain Cafe. It is our very first show here on Buzzsprout. We are excited to be here. So welcome to all of our first timers who've never seen our show. We welcome you. We are the place where we talk about the elephant in the room, mental and emotional pain, okay? And I am joined tonight by a very, 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 very good friend of mine. Rhea, tell everybody who you are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rhea, and I am an entrepreneur. And of course, I'm a mom and a wife. So those are the first two things that's most important to me.
Yes. But you are a coach as well, though. You are a coach and you do things. So what is it that you tell us more about who you are and when it comes to mental health? Where's your role in the mental health world?
So whenever I have a client, whether it's me doing personal training with them, it's always a session because they open up a lot.
Yes.
So I'm not just there to work them out and get to their goals, but I'm also there to listen. And I'm also there to give them some options of what can they do to help, because I've been there. And I would never tell or give any advice to anyone unless I've been through it.
Right.
First and foremost, I always tell them to get help.
Yes.
To someone that's a professional. And also it helps to have someone like myself, that a confidant, if you want to talk to. But I always tell everyone that I am not a doctor, but I have been through a lot of things that I survived. And sometimes in being transparent with people, they trust me and they know that I'm not going to steer them wrong because I made it.
Right. And you know, it's funny because you said you don't like to really get into things that you haven't been through yourself, because you know that people can relate to people who've been through a mile in their shoes. But my thing that I always say about being a mental health provider, and whether you're in wellness, coaching, therapy, whatever it is, you are always your first client. You are always the first thing that motivates you to get into this line of work. I know for me, that was a catalyst for me, because once I was able to trace my own traumas and realize how I was in my own way, that was the most freeing thing for me ever in my whole life. Of course, it's still a work in progress, still plenty of things to figure out and, you know, work through, but just to start to clear some of those blockages out the way so you can see life a little more clear, it feels amazing. So that's one of the things that, you know, we go through. We heal ourselves first, and then the tools that were given to us to navigate our way through it are the same tools that we use to start putting our programs and services together so we can help other people, which is very important. So tonight's subject, guys, we came here tonight to talk about something that has been plaguing our community for a very long time, but has gotten increasingly worse. And I would say probably since the onset of COVID, we've seen it just come to a rise. And some of it has caught us by surprise. Some of these people who we see in this situation has really caught us off guard. And we're talking about a very sensitive subject tonight about suicide. All right, we came here tonight to talk to you guys about suicide. We know that a lot of people today are hurting. We are living in a society that is presenting a lot of challenges for us. And I think that the whole like out of nowhere experience with COVID, where we were just thrusted into solitude and, you know, with no warning, no nothing, you just bam, and you were faced with this big, huge mirror of having to look at your life. Look at the people you're married to. Look at the people you're friends with. Look at what your own life, in, you know, just starting to take a different introspection of what was going on in your life when we were, you know, all about our lives out there with the, you know, the hurrying up, the everyday life. We didn't have a chance to reflect and self-evaluate where we were and slow it down for a minute to see what we needed to do. And then I think that a lot of truths that people came to was disturbing for a lot of people, and it became too much for a lot of people to bear, because we did experience quite a number of suicides on top of the COVID deaths. There was a lot of suicide. So I know that you and I both have had our own bout with suicide. So tonight, guys, we just want to be very candid and open and talk about what it feels like and how we made it through. Because maybe there's somebody out there today, and if you are out there, I want to say to you, please pick up the phone and call somebody. Pick up the phone and call somebody. There's always another alternative. Death is never, ever the answer. So pick up the phone and call somebody. So, Rhea, let's talk about this. Let's talk about our own experiences with this. Like, I know that, you know, for me, I've had a couple of experiences with it, not just one. But there's been a couple of times in my life where it was an option for me.
Yeah.
A real option. And so I know you experienced that as well. So what was that like for you?
So I was a repetitive person that tried to kill themselves in my different, I guess, ages. It was a lot, too much
Yeah.
too much to, but I do remember some of the bad ones. And granted, because I tried so much, it wasn't me trying to get attention. It was me wanting to die, and I was unsuccessful.
Yes.
Whether I woke up from it, whether I woke up throwing up or woke up in the hospital, I just could not understand why it kept waking up. But I had a lot of pain, and the pain being, I guess when I was younger, I couldn't express myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I became a mom, I really couldn't express myself because I didn't want anyone to know that I still have issues.
Right.
Because I was scared of different things happening, people judging me and thinking that, you know, I was crazy, you know, and I was just depressed and very unaware of how to handle my traumas. And to this day, they didn't go away. I just learned how to deal with them. And when I did start learning how to deal with them, it doesn't mean that, oh, I learned, it's solved. No, I still go through things.
Absolutely.
When I do have a flare or a flash of something, I cry. And then I start to get into my work that I love to do. Me pouring into people helps me.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me also feel responsible that I got to be okay for somebody else. I have to show them that there is life after pain. And that's what I did. You know, I showed that there is life after pain.
Wow.
And I also experienced my brother's death, who he committed suicide. Live with that every day of my life. It never gets easy.
No.
And it's one of those things that I had to, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to help build myself up, or I'm going to hurt my children by not helping myself. And the thought of my children being hurt scares me.
Right.
So they were my strength.
Mm.
My kids were my strength, and my businesses and the things that I love to do helps me to keep going on.
You know, it's funny because I have a morning show on YouTube, and on Fridays, I always try to think of something to do for self-care. But one particular Friday, I was like, you know what? This Friday, let's check on all of our strong friends. Let's check on all the people who hold everybody else together, because those are the people who are suffering in silence. Yeah. And if you're listening to this show, and if you have, battles with feelings of depression or suicide, sometimes it's normal. And I think that what we have to do is start to normalize emotional trauma, because we have labeled it for so long as, oh, they're crazy, oh, they're schizophrenic, they're this, they're that, they're bipolar, when sometimes people are just straight up traumatized. You know what I'm saying? They are just straight traumatized. And because we have been dealt trauma without a solution to get out of it, then we do what we as humans do, which is we suppress it. We start to suppress all the things that we've been through, and not realizing that that suppression doesn't go anywhere. It shows its face in our life with alcohol, with drug addictions, sex addictions, eating addictions, shopping addictions, lying addictions. I mean, addictions of anything those are things that distract you from the things that really need your attention. And, I just want to encourage everybody to stop trying to be so strong. When you get weak, allow yourself to have those moments. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to grieve, more importantly, because one of the things you said, Rhea, that I know that I'm very guilty of is whenever I experience pain, we as human beings, we go into fight or flight mode when it comes to trauma. We either go and fight, or we're going to get the hell out of the way because we don't like trauma. We don't like drama. So we run from it. Even when we shouldn't, we run from it because we just don't want to deal with it. So in those situations, what I've learned is that we have to learn how to deal with it, because it ain't going nowhere. Okay, it ain't going nowhere. And if we go ahead and grieve and really get the pain, let the pain come up. Let it come up. Grieving is when you're crying. It's an upheaval. It's what I call a spiritual bath, because you're giving yourself a cleansing. You're cleansing your soul of that pain and that anguish and whatever it was that hurt you. When you allow yourself the opportunity to grieve, then you are allowing yourself the opportunity to heal, which is very important. And I know that in a situation that I just went through in my own life, for 2 years, I poured myself into work. I poured myself into everything, because as long as I was busy writing books and doing magazines and starting this and doing this, I didn't have a chance to deal with the pain I was feeling. But then when it all slowed down, because God knew I needed to deal with that pain, because he knew that if I didn't deal with it, it was going to deal with me. Right. So he slowed me down, and he allowed me to be able to deal with that pain. And I grieved for the first time. Even though this situation is a couple of years old in my life, I grieved the situation for the first time. But that is a healthy thing, because in grieving, it gave me the ability to let go. Right. Which is what we have to do. We have to learn how to accept what is, whether we like it or not, especially if it involves someone else, because we have absolutely no control over another individual. So if you're in a situation where you've been hurt or wounded by another person, you're wasting your time thinking that you can do anything to make the other person change. What we have to do is learn what we need to do to not get back in that situation again. So again, when it comes to suicide, I just think that we all need to take into account that everybody goes through something at some point in their life. I don't care who you are, how much money you have, how much fame you have. It doesn't matter. At some point in your life, you're going to feel unnecessary. But like you said, life is never about what happens to us. It's what we do and how we handle what happens to us. So we have to learn how to process these emotions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's the thing that for me, it's like, that's why I felt that, you know, in introduction to this whole show about mental pain and making it a cafe for mental pain, because we don't have many resources for mental pain. We really don't. We have therapy, which a lot of times can be worse than not getting therapy. I remember when I was going through my own personal trauma, just going to traditional therapists, and they are, let me put this out there, bound by a lot of laws and rules that they have to follow. If you are a state regulated therapist, one that can write prescriptions, then you're not free to really run your practice the way most of the times could be more feasible, because you have rules and regulations that have to be followed. And I just know that for me personally, traditional therapy failed me big time. One of my therapists actually fell asleep on me.
My God.
I'm in the session and he actually fell asleep on me. So what I found for me, the best thing for me was it goes back. The answer to all our problems is always love. It's always love. Because the thing that helped me to start getting back on the track was me finding my self-love. How about you? Did you find that was like the key to what you were going through?
Yes. And then I also learned that it was not selfish.
Not at all.
It's necessary. Even, you know, when I do, whether it's a regular exercise class or a stretch class or an aerobic class, whatever it is, at the look in all those women's faces, it's necessary to have something that, you know, just takes care of you, you know.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that if I don't have it in my life, I would be in a bad mood all the time.
Absolutely.
So
And you know, sorry, go ahead.
It balances me. Like I take breaks, and my kind of break is to be by myself. I learned how to love me enough that I love my company.
Yes.
I don't consider it being lonely or alone, you know.
Right.
I love, you know, just sipping on my tea, watching something funny, you know. I crack myself up, you know.
Right.
So it's little things like that that helps me to break my busy life so that I can remind myself that I'm still Rhea.
Yes. And you know what? It's important to, well, you said something a few minutes ago. You said it's not selfish. It's not. I had a whole class teaching people about being selfless. Selfless, okay? That's when you are taking care of you first. That's when you make sure that your cup is running over before you start trying to pour from it. Because people like myself who are born people pleasers, you know what I'm saying? We don't worry about if there's going to be a sip left in it for us. We're just constantly trying to make sure that we're going to be accepted by everybody. We're going to be wanted by everybody. We're going to be liked by everybody. Everybody's going to want to be around us, going to want to work with us. So we overcompensate for ourselves because we're trying to be wanted. We're trying to feel loved and accepted. And that's when I had to learn the art of being selfless. This doesn't mean that I'm going to be selfish. I'm never going to be selfish. But being selfless, meaning taking care of me first. There's a reason why they tell you on the airplanes to put your own mask on first. Because if you can't breathe, how are you going to help somebody else breathe? Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason for that. And in talking about this whole suicide thing, for me, it came in moments where I felt like I had done all I could do. I felt hopeless. I felt hopeless and helpless, okay? Because I felt like I had reached my wit's end, like life was not gonna get better for me, that I was gonna continue to go be on this hamster wheel of cycles that I couldn't complete, repeating the same old shit over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. We all know that's called insanity. But I kept doing that, and we all do it as human beings, because we don't, until you know better, you're going to continue to do what you've always done, because that's what you think is better. That's what you think is the solution. And so until you have a different narrative or a different solution, this is what you're going to continue to do. And it's going to drive you crazy. Because when you are steadily, for me, it was very hard for me because I was working and I'm steadily trying to, get things on track for myself. And I would get so far and then fall down, get far and fall down, get far and fall down. And I couldn't figure out why that was happening. And when I finally did figure out why it was happening, it was after all of my suicide attempts. You know what I'm saying? So it almost was too late. It was almost too late. So again, that's what the healing is all about. It will prevent the attempts of suicide if you can get into yourself and cure and deal with the stuff that we've been suppressing, some of us even before birth. Because I know for me, I started to feel the feelings of abandonment and not being wanted even in my mother's womb. My mother was 16. She had sex, and the first time she had sex, she got pregnant. So I got a mother and a father who are both not anticipating my birth. And as a child, you can feel that. You know what I'm saying? You can feel that. So it's those types of feelings started to develop for me way before I got here. So they just got increasingly worse because I was never taught how to deal with those feelings. No one ever addressed those things for me. So as an adult, they just became my problem. It's like going on a trip and never unpacking your bags. And every time you get ready to go somewhere else, you keep dragging all the stuff from the last trip with you until you get to the airport and they charging you thousands of dollars for excess baggage.
Right.
Because that's what we carrying around. And it's just, I really just want to reach out to everybody this morning and just say that when you're feeling down, because you will, there is no such thing as when you're feeling down, because every one of us have moments when we feel down. When you are feeling down, that is that time where maybe God's trying to tell you something. Because I know for me, that's what it's always been. It's always God sees me falling apart. He sees the brick wall coming. He sees me heading straight into it. So his mission is to start knocking on my door to say, hey, you're about to crash. And when we just don't listen and we crash anyway, that's when we start to feel the feelings of defeat, the feelings of unworthiness, just all kinds of low vibing feelings start to come to us. And as those things start, if you stay sunk in them, they can lead you to thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore, because you will start to beat up on yourself.
Yeah. And
start to feel like nobody loves you, nobody's gonna miss you. You just feel like I would be better off dead. And so I want everybody to know that we have to reach out to the people around us. We have to, especially the ones that pretend like everything's okay. When you have a person that ain't never complaining about nothing in their life, you need to be seriously worried about them. You need to be worried about that person.
I agree.
And I just want to say that don't stay by yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you start to feel that way, I reach out to friends when I start to feel that way, because I know that sometimes you need that extra encouragement. You know what I'm saying? While we're on this subject, I want you guys to look out for our new hotline that's coming. It's called the Mental Pain Cafe Hotline. It's going to be a 24-hour hotline where you will be able to call in on this hotline and speak to people from pastors to wellness coaches, life coaches, certified therapists. You can choose who you want to speak to. All of us have different feelings about who we choose to take advice from. Some people are very religious and they want to speak to a pastor. Some people have gotten out of religion and they don't want to speak to a pastor. They'd rather speak to someone who they feel can relate to them, which could fall into a life coach or a wellness coach. But this is coming. So you will be able to have somebody, because it's times like that when if you can't find an unbiased opinion, because sometimes calling your family and friends don't help, because they're going to get you deeper into your stuff. They can be serious enablers without even trying to be. So sometimes you need an unbiased opinion to speak to you and just give you another perspective on how this could be handled. So it's serious. It's very serious. And I think that we all need to start. I've been saying since COVID that the emotional trauma is the elephant in the room that we can no longer ignore. We can no longer ignore this elephant. We don't realize that every time we look on the news and we see another mass shooting, that's mental trauma. That's someone who didn't deal with their trauma, so they went and took it out and took other people's lives because no one ever dealt with their trauma. Everything we see going on in the news when it comes to dysfunction, most of it leads us right back to emotional trauma. And it's really sad. It's really sad. So, I know it's a heavy subject. I don't want to take over the conversation. Please jump in. Wherever. I'm just like, to me, it's very disturbing.
It is. And a lot of times too, I guess with how the world is with being so busy, a lot of times you don't pick up on the little things that someone may not be doing anymore.
Right.
For instance, if someone had a love for something and then they just stop, instead of ignoring it, ask them why did they stop? Because that can open them up.
Yep. It might lead to the conversation.
Yeah. But like I always say, if you don't know how to address a person that is being transparent with you, I'd rather the person just say, let's find someone that can help you.
Right.
A lot of people, they think they feel obligated to say something. No, all you have to do is help them. So you can help them by getting them help.
Right. I mean, again, it's this whole thing about, I talked about that on my channel this morning about feeling sorry for people. That's a negative energy that you shouldn't have around people, because you're feeling sorry for their lack, feeling sorry for their pain. And that energy has to return and keep that person in that lack and in that pain. It's like you said, don't feel sorry for them, help them. Find a way to help, because if they came into your midst, then there is a way for you to help in some kind of way. There is a way to help. And it's, again, I think we have to all take responsibility though, and be willing to also help ourselves. Because when you know that you're dealing with these emotional demons, you got to speak up and you got to tell somebody what you're going through so we can give you the help that you need. Because some people are so freaking good at pretending that's how come so many suicides are just shocking. Because you think to yourself, well, man, like for instance, the girl, Miss America, or was it Miss America, Miss USA, whatever it was, the poor baby that just jumped off the 26th floor and killed herself. Everybody was blown away by that. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, she was so beautiful. She was so this, she was so that. Beauty ain't never saved nobody's life. What you look like has nothing to do with what you feel like.
Absolutely.
And you could tell that baby was hurting.
Absolutely. I had, I was interviewed last year talking about growing up and certain things that, was not there. And so we were talking about food access. And I said, when I was younger, there was sometimes that they wouldn't even take my mother seriously because her face was done. Her hair was always done. She looked beautiful all the time, as if she didn't need. And and she always made sure I looked good. And they would look at her as if why are you in this line? You
Yes.
know, and seeing that as a child, I was like, okay, so you have to look bad in order
Right.
to
To be
help,
poor. Right.
that type of thing. And in the interview, I said, hunger doesn't have a look.
Exactly.
You can be well dressed because you like to keep yourself up.
Yes.
To look hungry in order, to receive food, just if somebody says they're hungry, feed them.
Right.
If
Right.
somebody says, help me, even if you don't think they need any help, even if you look at them and they say, I'm struggling, I'm depressed, the worst thing you can do is push that off and be like, girl, you'll be okay. And
Exactly.
like I said, you have to be careful what you say to people. And
Absolutely.
if you don't have anything that's going to help them get help.
Absolutely. You can at least do that. You can at least do that. If you don't have the help to give, you will surely know somebody who can. Okay, you can do something. But when it comes to a lot of this mental health stuff, a lot of us are doing. We are putting people in trauma. We are the ones upsetting other people. We are the ones in conflict with other people. So a lot of this stuff where we sitting here, we telling you to check on your loved ones. I want to say to some of y'all, stop inflicting pain on your loved ones. Okay, stop putting the responsibility of your own happiness and pain on other people and burdening other people around you. Some of us are responsible for what other people are going through because we are bringing drama to their life. And we know that these people are vulnerable or that they are weak and naive and can't handle this type of conflict. And yet we do it out of selfish reasons anyway. We have to start asking ourselves, how are we treating the people in our circles? Okay, are you a good friend? Ask yourself, am I a good friend? Am I a good mother? Am I really there for my child when he or she really needs me? Am I really a good grandmother? Am I really there for my grandchild when my child and my grandchildren need me? Am I a good mother, a good daughter, a good sister, a good worker? But we have to ask ourselves this because the world we live in, all the stuff that we're going through, the trauma that we experience as human beings is inflicted by another human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is that yes, we need to start checking on people, but we need to stop picking on people. That's what we need to do. We need to start to be more loving in our words, more loving in our actions. We have become, our society is a society that people run from love. People run from relationships now. Everybody just wants to Netflix and chill and hurt each other's feelings and put each other in third parties and gaslight each other. And no one wants to commit. No one wants to be in a monogamous relationships anymore. Oh, let's be in an open relationship, which means give me the certificate to cheat on you when I feel like it. And then we wonder why everybody's hurting. This is why everybody's hurting, because people are being very selfish these days. Very, very selfish. They're not being selfless like you and I spoke of. These people are thinking only of themselves and they're not thinking about how their actions are going to affect their neighbor or nothing else. I was on a show not too long ago and this girl was talking about how what she do don't affect other people. And I said, that's not true. We live in this earth as we are all energy fields, okay? So we are affecting each other. There's no way that we don't. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, you and I can live in the same neighborhood. You pay $400,000 for your house. Everybody on the street pretty much paid $400,000. But I go into foreclosure and I sell my house for $200,000. Guess what just happened to the value of everybody's house on that street? It just got affected by me having a foreclosure. But you, as my neighbor, you didn't care that I couldn't pay my bills. You didn't care that me and my kids couldn't eat because you didn't think that would affect you. And I remember growing up where we used to feed everybody in the neighborhood. My grandmother used to bring home so many stray babies, it was unreal. Oh, Granny, who is it today? Okay, who we got today? But I loved her for that because you weren't going to suffer around my grandmother. And my grandmother had, most people would think she had nothing to give. We lived in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, with about 7 or 8 people in that house, okay? And yet my grandmother was constantly bringing strangers home. So we got to do better by ourselves. We as people make up good and evil. We as people are causing people to feel unloved, unwanted, and unnecessary. My question tonight is, when are we gonna stop? When are we gonna stop?
Yeah. And another thing too is when you know someone is in pain and another person will make them feel like, okay, if you just go to, and if you just pray,
Right.
or if you just, go to church, or there's a lot of people that are told that,
Yes.
and they still leave with the same problem.
Yes.
And yes, it is very, very, very important to have a relationship with God. Yes, it is. That's not what I'm speaking of. I'm talking about making them feel bad about not being changed after they leave, because they do feel some type of disappointment in themselves. And they do, because I know I've been being young, kept, me having to go on the altar over and over and over again. And I used to say, why can't I change? Why is this still in my head?
Right.
That wasn't fixing me.
No,
because
it wasn't.
No one was giving me the steps
No.
To do that. They just told me to go and do this, and that should work. And when it didn't,
It made
when
you feel like a failure.
Yes. Until I developed a relationship with God, until I started allowing the scriptures to minister to me, to comfort me, that's when I knew how to seek him.
Right. Right.
It wasn't just do this and you should be good. And a lot of times, like I said, some people feel like there's something wrong with them because those things didn't work.
I was one of them. I thought something was wrong with me. That's why I wanted to kill myself, because I felt like I was never going to be able to figure it out. Like I was useless. I was worthless. I had so many ambitions and so many things I wanted to achieve and to become and to do in life. And I felt like I just was on this hamster wheel again that I couldn't get off of. I kept hitting the same brick walls, not realizing what I needed to do to stop hitting those walls. Okay, no one told me what I needed to do. So, and as a result, I kept doing the same old things, not knowing that I'm making a mistake. And just like you said, no one's around to tell us that we are not alone, that we are loved, that we are capable, that we are enough, that we are strong. We don't have people around telling us that. Most of us have haters and envious people around who love to see your downfall. In fact, that's how they send negative energy to you, to get you to sabotage yourself, by reminding you of your failures, reminding you of the things that you weren't able. And I don't ever see a person that continues to try as a failure. You are not a failure. If you are strong enough with 10 knives in your back to keep getting up and keep pushing on, you are by no means a failure. The people who give up and let one knife in their back stop them, those are failures, because you are giving up, you are letting go. But you got so many people out here who you would wonder why they haven't committed suicide at this point, because they've endured way more than a lot of people who have called it quits early. And some of us, again, we just haven't been taught. We just don't know. It's just such a foreign feeling to us to be feeling all of this sadness, all this depression, all this darkness, and no one around to fix it. It's like the people around are pouring more darkness, more sadness into you. So that becomes overwhelming as a human being. You didn't come here to just suffer. Sure, we all suffer at some point, but that's not what we came here to do most of our life. We came here to try to have a little bit of enjoyment here. But that suffering, that long-term suffering over and constantly will drive somebody to want to commit suicide. And so my thing is today is, instead of us doing all the old stuff that we've been doing about suicide that hasn't worked, let's take a different approach. And again, let's start with the man in the mirror by making sure that we are loving on the people around us.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Just make sure that we are loving on the people around us.
And be aware of your surroundings, of people. It's like, I never forget, one of my sisters told me one time, she was like, Rhea, I was looking at your pictures and I don't like what I see. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, this was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it's just, you're just so sad. It's like all over your face, you know? And I was like, well, you know, I'm a serious person. I don't do much smiling. And she was like, no, that's not it. She was like, it scares me, she said. She was like, are you okay? She never in her life told me anything like that. So when she said that, and it made me feel really good that she noticed.
She cared, and
she noticed something that I didn't even notice. I thought I was hiding it pretty good, but she was like, nah, look at the picture. She was like, I wanted to tell you this for so long, but I was afraid that you just, you know, would get upset with me, you know, but I really had to tell you that. And, you know, I just told her, that's when I opened up to her and I said, I've been dealing with depression for many, many, many years. So I don't know how else to be. And then she says to me, well, me too.
Oh, wow. See, yes, it is. It's the new Me Too movement, if you want the truth, because every single person, this is why, you know, I felt so bad for a lot of people like the Whitney Houstons and the Michael Jacksons and the people like that of the world who were seriously hurting mentally, but no one was there to help them with that. Everybody wanted to enable them and keep them stuck in their stuff. And man, people are hurting out here today, man. People are hurting.
Yeah.
You know, and the sad part about it is hurt people hurt. So if you were hurt as a child, you're probably going to hurt your children, and then their children are going to hurt their children. It's a cycle that until somebody breaks that cycle, it just keeps repeating itself. And like I said, we're not here on some planet where the air we breathe is messing us up or the water we drink is messing us up. We're messing each other up. And so the solution is easy, but so difficult at the same time, because most of us aren't willing to admit that we are the problem. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to play the victim. It feels good playing the victim because then you can point the fingers and blame everybody else. And it's easy for you to navigate that way because then you don't have to deal with your stuff. You can blame your problems on all the people around you. You can blame it on the economy, on COVID, on Trump, on Obama. You know, we got a lot of stuff we like to blame stuff on. But at the end of the day, it's never anybody's problems what we're dealing with except our own. And then until we look at it that way, we're going to forever be dealing with this trauma that is throwing up in our face right now. Like I said, we're all afraid to leave the house right now. Honestly, I was mad when we went back to normalization. I was pretty much enjoying the shutdown, if you want the truth, because it felt safe. If ain't nobody in the streets, we ain't got to worry about no crime. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, we're right back to the BS. We're right back to it. Right back to normal life again. Right back to toxicity, codependency, conflicts. We're right back to all of it. Gossiping and talking about each other again. But then we want to know why people are committing suicide. And none of us, we don't realize that we're murderers. We're murderers. We are the ones killing people. We are murderers. And even though the government ain't paying attention, you best believe God is. Whether you believe in him or not, he is paying attention to the things that we are murdering. We come down here, we are the ones killing, stealing, and destroying things. There is no devil doing that. We're doing a damn good job. If there ain't a devil, that's okay, because we'll do until the real one gets here. Because a lot of us are doing a damn good job imitating him. And we want to know why our friends and family and kids and children are committing suicide. Because we're more worried about what kind of car we drive, where we live, if we got red bottoms on or a Louis Vuitton purse on our shoulders. But your son or your daughter, they're in their room trying to figure out how many pills it's going to take to get rid of their lives. But you worried about where you're going to get the next Louis Vuitton from. It's time for us to check ourselves. It is really time for us to check ourselves.
Another thing too that I wanted to add is that when my sister said me too, and she told me how she's dealing with it,
Mm-hmm.
just because one person deals with it one way, it doesn't work for the next person. And all of us are unique.
Absolutely.
All of us. So what worked for her worked for her. What she told me worked for her did not work for me. So I had to actually try to see what will work for me, because I was drowning and I needed a life vest. I wanted to stay afloat. So that's when I started to really think, okay, what's going to help me? And again, what helps me in life, it's not for everybody, but there is something for all of us.
Right.
In how to live through pain, live through trauma. There is. And that's why it's important to not feel like you're failing when you're trying different things. Guess what? You keep trying, and
Right.
you keep trying. That's
Right.
why there's so many resources now.
Mm-hmm.
There's suicide hotline. There's Google, for crying out loud.
Right.
Now you can, there's so many different things that can help a person,
Right.
and you have to keep trying. You have to keep
Yeah.
trying and wanting to get better and seeking that help, especially nobody's coming to you.
Right.
Sometimes when nobody's coming to you, because nobody, when I was going through that when I was younger, they weren't coming up to me.
Right.
Because I hid it.
And when I found that, like, even I made an attempt once before. I took some pills. So I got that far with it before. And I was shocked, honestly, at the way the people around me handled it. You know what I'm saying? It was almost as if, instead of them seeing me as somebody that needed help, it was almost like they were pissed off at me. You know what I'm saying? They made me feel worse, if you want the truth, because then they started to make me feel ashamed. Like, now you're trying to kill yourself. Like, what's like, you're useless. Like, almost like they wished I had succeeded is how they made me feel. Okay. And this is why I'm saying today that we have to do better about the people around us, because it is us that causes people to feel bad a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And when someone is feeling bad, even if at the time you feel like they need tough love, maybe not at that very moment do they need it. Maybe at that moment they need to just be loved and saved and you can
Right.
exercise the self-love later.
Right.
For me, I try to, when I start to feel feelings of depression, I used to try to, like we talked about it earlier in the recording where we talked about, suppressing it by pouring ourselves into work and, hobbies and activities or whatever. No, now I go ahead and deal with it because I realize that if I don't do it now, I'm going to do it later. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to deal with this pain one way or the other. And I much rather deal with it on the onset rather than let it sit in my body and become an infestation and start to affect all types of areas of my life that it really had nothing to do with. But because I didn't deal with it, it's an infestation in my body now.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I try to do is just go ahead and deal with it. I don't allow myself to stay in a state of depression for long because I know staying there is not good. You cannot stay there because we are the manifestors of our reality. So if we are constantly seeing ourselves failing, constantly seeing ourselves depressed and unhappy, we're going to attract situations that will keep us in that energy. You will vibrate that way. And I don't want to do that. But I do realize that it is necessary to again grieve. So I try to grieve. I try to let it out. I allow myself to be depressed. I remind myself that I am human. And even though I know and have better coping mechanisms than I used to have, I'm still human. And there are going to be times where I'm still not going to feel necessary. But I do know now that I am necessary. So when I have those moments of feeling unnecessary, I just let myself have it for a day. The next day, it's like, all right, girl, get up, put your big drawers on. It's time to go, okay? It's time to get back up. But I realize that, like you said about your sister, my way ain't gonna work for everybody. So it's important that you find a counselor, a confidant, pastor, whoever it is that you feel comfortable with. It's important that you find that person that you can go and that person won't judge you. That was the one thing that disappointed me, I think, the most about my relationship with my sisters, is that I always wanted that sister relationship where I could go and just be raw, no hair, no makeup, no shower in 2 or 3 days, and sit next to you and cry my heart out without any judgment. And it's just the opposite with me. When I try to go to my sisters like that, it's like I get raked over the coals. Like, how dare you, you loser, you this, you're that. And it's like, wow. So, we do a lot to each other to break each other down. My family used to tear me down so much that they were the ones who pushed me to my suicidal thoughts quite often.
Yeah.
So that's why I said when we telling people to, reach out to family, and hell, sometimes family is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes family is the problem. So this is why it's important that you find your soul tribe, okay? Find your soul tribe. Find those people who may not be blood related to you, but they're so close and so loyal and so, honest with you that they feel like family. Might not be the blood family, but they are family because of the way they treat you and the way they love on you. Yes. So that's important to have. Mm-hmm. Oh man, this is a heavy subject tonight. This is a very heavy subject, and especially for us because we've been through this before, and we know what it feels like to want to end your life. And even sometimes, as amazing as my life can be sometimes, and the amazing things that I can do, and the amazing people that I meet, and the amazing people that I go, places that I go, I still sometimes want to leave here. I still sometimes just don't want to be here anymore. I feel completely unnecessary. But I do know, again, that you are never alone, okay? There's a scripture, Matthew 28:20, talks about you never being alone, okay? If I read scriptures, sometimes those help me. Just praying and talking out loud to God help me out, okay? So you gotta find ways to stay up. Reading, I read a lot of Psalms too. Psalms help me out big time. They just calm me. But speaking out loud to God, speaking out loud to my soul tribe, the people who I can trust and feel like won't judge me and won't ridicule me or persecute me, I reach out to them. Sometimes solitude is good. Like you said, you isolate yourself sometimes. Sometimes that's good to just get isolated where it's just you and God. Shut out the chatter of everybody else's opinions of what you should do and shouldn't do, and just let it be you in spirit sometimes. That's good. But you got to find your own way. You definitely have to find your own way. So hopefully you guys, I think the biggest message that I want to leave you guys with tonight is check yourself and ask yourself, are you loving on the people around you? Are you causing people to want to commit suicide? Are you part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? This is the question that I would like for you to ask yourself tonight. Do you have any parting words, Rhea?
The only thing that, I would like to say is just encourage help. It's out there. Be very noticeable on your loved ones, your friends. Don't ignore. If you feel it, if you have that feeling of something, most likely it's for a reason.
Yes.
And picking up the phone, just texting, saying, I'm just thinking about you. And if they don't reply back, okay, but reach out, at least try.
At least. Yes. Well, guys, like I said, I want to leave y'all with messages of reminding you that you are never alone. Okay. You are beautiful. You are victorious. You are more than enough. Okay. You are creative. You are amazing. And you are possible. Okay. You are possible. And that's another thing that I love to do to myself is the mirror exercise. And speaking to yourself in the mirror is very powerful. Giving yourself a high five every morning. When you brush your teeth, high five yourself and say, all right, Rhea, we got this today, girl. We about to go out here and make this our best day ever. You will be shocked at how that gives you a jolt of energy. Like you high-fiving yourself. You know how when you high-five kids love to be high-fived. Give me a high-five. They jump up to your hand to give you high-five because they feel like they're being validated. But when you look in the mirror every morning, we start off with positive affirmations, reminding yourself of your creativity, your strength, your value, reminding yourself of all these things, it starts your day off in a better energy than you starting off saying, man, I don't feel like going nowhere today. I don't feel like being bothered with these people today. When you start off in that energy, that vibration goes out into the universe and brings you people who will aggravate you. It will bring you situations in your day that will make you regret that day. But start it off beautiful. Start it off reminding yourself that you got this. And the one thing we have to remember about life is that it ain't easy for nobody. No matter how famous, rich, or that you are, it doesn't matter. We all come with baggage to carry. And what I'm asking you today is to realize your stuff, pay attention to it, and start doing something about it. Find some help. Whether you find yourself a life coach, a wellness coach, a therapist, whatever it is, I'm asking you today to get with somebody who can start leading you toward tracing your traumas and finding out what's keeping you in depression. Long gone are the days that we can just take a pill and hope that everything changes and we're going to be okay. The pills do not work. We got to roll up our sleeves and get in there with the nitty gritty and do the work. We got to deal with the pain. We got to dig it up, deal with it, forgive the people who did it to us, and move forward so it can no longer be a blockage in our life. So it can no longer be that thing that makes you wake up wanting to kill yourself, wanting to end your life. Because no matter what's going on in your life, ending your life is never the answer. It is never the answer. So I hope you remember right here on the Mental Pain Cafe that you are possible, you are loved, and you are never alone, okay? If you need help, we'll be putting out that Mental Pain Cafe hotline very soon, guys. Stay tuned for that. But thanks you once again for joining us on our first episode of the Mental Pain Cafe. We'll be bringing you more episodes like this, talking about coping mechanisms, how we can learn how to cope better with our emotional trauma. Thank you, Rhea, for joining me. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Long-time friend. We share a lot of things together, and I'm just excited to have you on my journey.
Love you.
Love you too. All right, guys, we'll see you next Monday, right back here on the Mental Pain Cafe. Bye-bye.
Bye.